Yo, what up guys? Welcome back to Patched.
Welcome back, and today we've got the full review after about a week of usage of the iPhone SE second generation.
And this phone is going for $400 with what's the lowest amount of storage you can get? 64 gigs?
Yeah, 64 gigs, which just I feel like isn't quite enough right now. It may be for certain people, but for me, certainly not. I had 64 gigs on my S9, and I had to get another, an SD card slot or micro SD, which is not available on this. So I just spent the extra $50 and got, double the storage, 128 gigs. Mm-hmm. There is also the option for 256 for another $100 on top of the $50 extra. So those are the options available. It's also available in black, white, or red, essentially.
Okay, so $400. So one of Apple's cheapest phones ever. But did they skimp out on anything in this phone? We're going to tell you in this review. So as far as performance goes, how was the performance?
Performance was phenomenal. Okay, so they've got the A13 chip in here. So the same one as is in the 11 Pro or the 11 Pro Max is flown right there, which for $450 I got this phone that's got the latest chip in there. That's why this thing's going to be such a powerhouse. And I think it's gonna live for many, many years as far as the longevity of this guy goes, which is phenomenal. The performance, it blew through everything I can throw at it. I mean, opening tons of stuff. Games are good, but it'll drain your battery fast, and we'll get into that in a bit. But just about everything I can throw at this phone, it handled with ease. And iOS was just, it's always great to work with. So it just made everything that much smoother.
As far as the screen size goes, what do you think about the screen size since it's so tiny? Not only because the phone's tiny, but you also have the forehead and the chin.
Yeah. A very, very dated design, to say the least.
Yes.
Now, it took some getting used to, but once I got used to it, really wasn't that bad. Sure, I would prefer a larger screen, but for $450, the job that they did on the screen, I can't really complain. I thought it was, decent enough. But yes, the design was certainly dated. I see why they did it though, because in the purpose of cutting costs and using the chassis from the iPhone 8, just makes things a little bit easier. I'd imagine finding parts for this is a lot easier as well for Apple repairs.
I wish they would have, made it a full screen. Maybe at the notch, but then put an in-screen fingerprint reader, or put the fingerprint scanner on the back. You know what I'm saying?
That would have been interesting. So like a smaller version of what they're going to do with the iPhone 12,
yes.
Or what they're rumored to do with that.
Yeah.
Just sort of giving into a little bit of the features here. That I think would make this phone very, very approachable. Doing things like an in-screen fingerprint reader, things like that, where you look at it and you're like, okay, this is a little sort of hint at what they may be doing in late September when they release the new phones.
Yeah.
So that would be cool.
And as far as the screen goes, did you notice anything horrible about the screen? It's what, 720p, right?
Yeah, it's about 720p, and it's still a very, very nice display. You still can't see the pixels on there, so it really didn't pose much of an issue. However, going from I had a Samsung S9, and that was an OLED screen, a very nice one. Moving from that to this, it did take a little hit. I will say I do notice the backlight and things like that. But it wasn't very huge, and I got used to it. I don't consume a whole lot of media on my phone, and when I do, I'm not looking for the sharpest, 4K HDR graphics or anything like that. So I think it was sufficient.
It also doesn't get that bright, right?
Yeah. That's another thing. The screen is definitely a lot dimmer than the 11 Pro or, for example, my Samsung S9. And that's, I would say, for the purpose of saving battery, because you're only looking at about a 2,000 milliamp hour battery.
Oh my god!
Which a lot of people were saying, that's a super small battery, and it is for this generation of phones. But I didn't really run into any issues with battery life. However, along the line, I can see how when that battery starts to degrade, you may run into some problems.
So as far as the battery life goes, you said it's a 2,000 milliamp hour battery, which is really, really small, especially given how small this phone is and thin, right?
Yeah.
But so daily use, you're a moderate to, I guess, kind of heavy user, right?
Yeah. I browse social media during the day. I go through all my apps. I look at memes like anyone. Yes. I watch a lot of YouTube on my phone, and then at night I watch Netflix before I go to bed. And then I just pop it in the charger when I go to bed. So I do charge my phone every night. So if you're looking for a day and a half battery or a 2-day long battery, this is not going to be it. But with all of my phones pretty much, regardless of the charge at the end of the day, now I don't know if this is good or bad for your battery, but I ended up just charging it at night anyways. regardless of it. But it was around 30% by the time it gets to night. It's never gotten to red except for yesterday, which is where I was using it pretty much to the limits. I was pushing everything on the phone, just trying to see how it would perform. But honestly, at around average brightness, so about 50% brightness, medium to heavy usage, lasts all day without a problem.
Me, I charge my phone like every 2 days. So
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, right? All right, as far as the camera goes, we all know that this is a old camera. They're using an old sensor from the iPhone 8. And did you notice anything about the camera quality?
I would say the front camera, actually. The rear camera I didn't mind so much. It's the front camera. So doing things like Snapchats or just recording myself, that's where I noticed a lot of grain. And I felt like the quality really wasn't up to par in studio lighting and in natural light as well. So I feel like that's the one where I really would have appreciated a better camera on. But again, given the price, it's acceptable. That's going to be a sort of a trend among the features on this phone is for the price, you're getting a good deal on it.
So if you're an Instagram model, then this is not the phone for you, okay?
Well, if you're an Instagram model, you got the Photoshop anyways.
You
already know how to filter, go through all the filters.
Okay. And then as far as the home button goes, they're using the haptic feedback. It's not an actual button. And Touch ID, of course, is always fast, right?
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
So.
And they've got no Force Touch on here. Kind of sucks.
Force Touch. So that is something that I want to talk to you about. So before switching to my iPhone 11 Pro Max, I had the iPhone 6s Plus for like 4 or 5 years.
That's a fat switch.
Yeah, that is a fat switch, yes. And I'm very, very happy I did it finally. But there's no Force Touch, and the reason why I love my iPhone 6s Plus so much was because of the app switcher. So if you guys don't know, because of the Force Touch, if you Force Touch like on the side of the screen on the left, it would go into the app switcher, and then you can just swipe and then just switch to your last app, But then you can't do that on the SE. You have to double tap, right?
Yep.
That's
yeah. The app switcher is a double tap, or in the top left on sometimes when you switch, it'll show like the name of the last app you were on, and you can just switch back that way. But for switching through multiple apps, double tap the home button and you gotta swipe through them.
That is so slow and unintuitive, man. The iPhone 11 also, you can just swipe from the bottom, it's just from switching apps and stuff. So did you like that? Did you mind that? Because on your Galaxy S9, you had the feature where you just double click the app switcher and it just goes back to the last app, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it as too much of a hassle. Sure, it takes an extra like half second, which I thought would bother me, but it really didn't bother me.
It's too much.
I would say that it would be convenient to have a faster way to do it, but I'm not offended that it's the way it is. It didn't really pose any bother to me.
So if there's a demographic that you could like recommend this phone to, who would you recommend it to?
I mean, if your kids, if they're old enough to have a phone, this is an excellent first phone. I mean, it's secure, everything's encrypted, Apple cares about privacy. And it's $400. It's easy. They're getting a brand new phone, albeit some of the features are from the iPhone 8, but you're getting a fast processor. Apple's going to support it for years to come. So I think this would be a great option for kids.
And also older people, right?
Yeah.
Maybe? Like if you don't like, because I know some older people that don't like the swipe features on the new phones or the notch, I guess. So they want a physical home button.
Yeah, and I mean, someone like me, for example, who typically I don't use my phone like I was this week. I was pushing this phone a lot to sort of see where I could go with it. But I really use my phone pretty lightly. I'm not a huge camera user. I don't like selling a phone on the camera quality doesn't mean anything to me at all. So the fact that it has a fast processor and the operating system works really smooth, that's all I care about at all. So if you just want an iPhone and you want the latest iPhone for a cheaper price, then this is the way to go because it starts at $400, $50 extra, which I recommend spending the extra $50 if you can. Get double the storage, 128 gigs, and it's a phenomenal phone for what for the price. And I think everything here is just average, honestly, outside of the processor being phenomenal.
And of course, it comes with a regular charging brick. So it has slow charging. It is capable of fast charging, but you're gonna have to spend like an extra like $50 to $70 for the cable and the fast charging brick.
Yep.
So if you want fast charging, you can do that, but kind of sucks that it doesn't come with it. But it's only $400, so you can't really complain. So yeah, it's a great phone, and we definitely recommend it, and it comes in at a great price. So that about concludes our review on the iPhone SE 2nd generation. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you in the next one.